Welcome, everyone, to our podcast today on the subject of oil and gas law. My name's Bonnie Steepleton. I'm Director of Student and Career Services at the University of New Mexico School of Law. And we have joining us today Professor Joe Schremmer. Thank you for being here.
Hey, it's a real pleasure. Thanks for having me. My first podcast.
Mine too. So we'll get through this. And I thank everyone for joining us who's watching. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, I come to teaching from practice. I was in Kansas, in the Wichita, Kansas area, practicing in small general practice law firms for about 6 years. And the bulk of what I did there happened to be oil and gas. And that fit me pretty well because I sort of grew up in the oil and gas industry. My dad, once he graduated from high school, started mowing lease roads, which is like the lowliest thing you can do in the industry, and eventually worked his way up to having a few of his own oil wells that he would take me out to work on as a kid. So it happened that when I graduated from law school, the price of oil was something like $120 a barrel, and there was a demand for oil and gas lawyers. So I knew a thing or two about it, and it turned out to be absolutely wonderful. So the nice thing about the practice that I had was the variety of areas of practice that I got to experience as an oil and gas lawyer. So instead of specializing horizontally where you only do trials or you only do transactions, I specialized kind of vertically where I did oil and gas related everything. So that was contracts through administrative law, through litigation, a lot of every kind of law as it pertained to oil and gas. So it was a fun way to generalize while I was kind of specializing.
Sounds very rich.
Well, at times, of course, my career fluctuated with the price of oil and gas, which was not always rich. Sometimes the opposite of rich. But you get such a wide variety of skills practicing oil and gas law that when times are tough, and people are drilling dry holes or not drilling anything at all, you can easily maneuver into other practice areas with the expertise that you get. So I've done a little bit of everything.
So speaking of practice areas, what would you advise a student who is interested in pursuing a career in oil and gas?
Well, the first thing they ought to do is, hold their nose and take oil and gas law. And I say hold their nose because around here I tend to teach that class, and so it's the medicine that you need to take. But more generally, the practice of oil and gas law, and I kind of tend to think most practice areas are about property, contract, tort, a little con law. Occasionally in the oil business, a little criminal law, administrative law, but the basic stuff, the sort of bar exam courses that everyone takes because they feel like they have to, that's the stuff that makes you a really good oil and gas lawyer too. And the other component part, aside from getting really steeped in the basics, is keeping up with the current events. Especially here in New Mexico, oil and gas is in the news constantly. And when you're interviewing for jobs at oil and gas law firms, and when you're an oil and gas lawyer dealing with clients, just chatting in the cab of a pickup truck, it helps you enormously to be able to talk about what's in the news. And fortunately, that stuff tends to be pretty interesting, if you ask me anyhow.
Sounds like it. So where are these firms? Who are your clients?
You've got all kinds of different clients in oil and gas law, from very little ma and pa operators to individual mineral interest owners or royalty holders, all the way up to your Exxons and Chevrons and everything in between. And there's a fair number of government lawyers who do a lot of oil and gas work on behalf of state and federal agencies in New Mexico too. So every conceivable type of client, but geographically it's a little bit more restricted. So the oil and gas that exists in New Mexico primarily exists in the far northwestern part of the state and the far southeastern part of the state. What we call the Permian Basin in the southeast is particularly hot for oil and gas development right now. And so most of the actual on-the-ground stuff is happening there, but the clients are found strewn about, either in those particular areas or Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And you'll find the lawyers where you find the clients. So that means you find them here, as well as in the more rural parts of the state where the actual stuff is happening. But you can be pretty much in Albuquerque and Santa Fe and still be a oil and gas lawyer.
Sounds terrific. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insights, and I encourage anyone who's interested in pursuing a career in this area to contact our office or to reach out to you.
I hope they do, and thank you for the opportunity, Bonnie.
No, thank you. It's been great. Thanks a lot.
You bet.